Hello, everybody. This is Raz, episode 4 of the podcast, July 26th, and we are moving on towards. We're pretty deep into week 6. We've gone through a few of those days, but regardless of that, I am joined now with Indiana Frosky and Black. How you doing?
I'm tired, but I'm good. You came on like real hot in that podcast. You're like, listen up, it's Raz. And I'm like, oh no, this is like a performance, isn't it? Oh no.
Look, you're always going to get that with me no matter what. I'm the best person when it comes to lowering my energy before a broadcast.
God.
When you're on desk with me, and you've been on desk with me quite frequently as the host. So this is going to be a new environment for you.
Shit you not. Sitting down in this room, Raz was like in his low tone. He was just down here. He's like, look, this is what's going to happen. And then as soon as he pressed play, immediately he went into broadcast mode. And right now it's, what time is it? It is 4:30 on a Thursday. I'm not about this life.
Hey man, now you're feeling all the pain of the play-by-plays every single time they're like trying to get information out of me out of the desk.
I keep telling them to put me in, that I'm ready to play-by-play coach, host, analyst, color caster. I'll do it all. Make me the play-by-play.
They're all very afraid when they have to deal with me because they're like, is this man half asleep? And then the moment the camera pans to me, I'm just like, hey!
Suddenly limbs are flying everywhere.
I definitely will backhand somebody at some point. But of course, we're moving into week 6, and so a lot has happened. I had a discussion with Clement going into cross-conference to have his view on it, but I can immediately say, even with the discussion I've had with him, he's already flip-flopping on it. He's already off the Rogue Warriors hate train, because literally the day afterwards, Rogue Warriors go up against RNG.
Whoa.
2-0.
Whoa. That 2-0 does not tell the story. And if I'm Clement, I would get back onto that hate train. Because let's be honest right now, that should not have been a Rogue Warriors win, nor have RNG should ever be playing the game like that ever again.
Oh my goodness, you're already coming on that. Let me just say this, because moving on to the quick beats of like all of the nonsense that's been happening at the LPL. The nonsense of it. TOP beating JDG as we were hyping him up. BLG 2-0 EDG. Nonsense. WE 2-0 Sunning Gaming, which is slight nonsense. Just a little bit. We expected WE to be doing all right.
I keep seeing these Reddit threads pop up like, what the hell happened to Team WE? And I just scroll down. I'm like, I have no idea.
And of course, the veer back to the original point of RNG, losing 0-2 to Rogue Warriors, but it's not the first time. That in week 5, they lost a 3-game series versus FPX as well. That was the first time they went a 0-2 week since like March in Spring Split. That was a long time ago.
Other than the JD Gaming upset when JD took down RNG in their first game of Beijing, I've cast both of RNG's upsets. I cast both the Rogue Warriors one and the Fun Plus Phoenix one.
What'd you feel about it? Because obviously that series, it was match of the week. Rogue Warriors won.
Am I unhinged on this podcast? What's the rating?
You do you. I'm supposed to let you go free.
Oh boy, that's never anything you want to say to me.
The viewers wanted.
Watching that FPX versus RNG series, my asshole clenched for them.
Wait a second. I'm a real you back it. No, that's good. I like it. I'm a fan.
I think I used the phrase no, that was the LGD TOP series, but there's like a balcony, and some of the play was less than desirable. And the thing is we always talk about on broadcast when we use the PC language of, our expectations must be higher for the best team in the world. And I understand RNG are tired. The fact of the matter is that the league is long. They've participated in every single event. Like Uzi just went to All-Stars. They did Spring. They did MSI. Now they're into Summer. Uzi, of course, is taking a break. But the roster has just been on a grind. And at some point, Jesus takes the wheel. And when Jesus took the wheel, he drove them straight off a cliff multiple times in the Baron Pit. And this is where we are now.
A lot of Baron Pit driving. That's true. The fun thing about it, and it is fun, I love this discussion whenever it comes to a long regular season talk, because it's not just solely to us in the LPL or esports in general. Actual traditional sports have an NBA 82 games in it. That's a lot of games in your regular season.
Oh god.
And so you really have to rely on the bench to carry you. And I think RNG is the only team in the world that you can look at and say, well, why are they bringing on players? And sometimes it's as easy as you got to give them time. You're not going to be running your main squad onto the lineup for the entire 10-week duration, day after day.
It's like 500 games?
It's a lot of games. It takes a lot out of you. And so it makes sense that for Uzi, the shoulder injury, you don't want to run him down when it gets to playoffs. That's not when you want to send out your best player. And the same thing goes for Let Me. If you have the option to bring out your top laner as a tie when the time is right. You do that, and the same case for MLXG. So I really love the ability of using your 8-man lineup. NA has 10-man lineups now. Of when you feel like it's suitable, especially in week 6, where you really are at the top of the table and you don't need to be risking your players. So I like that discussion. And do you think it's been? How do you think it's working out for RNG?
I mean, it's like a two-prong issue, though, because I completely agree with you. RNG are in a very unique situation where they can rely on their bench to either spread the synergy around, weaponize multiple assets on their team, and build up, like communication and different types of game plans, which make them a very versatile and flexible team, which makes them a massive danger in playoffs.
Yes.
As long as it doesn't jeopardize their top tier spot. And the only problem that I have is that because they're in the Eastern Conference, they're sitting alongside the likes of JD Gaming, of Invictus Gaming, and them. And so the top 4 is pretty much locked up. We assume that Suning will have that 4th place spot, but pending maybe LGD make a rise from the dumpster fire.
Yep.
Like, who knows what's happening down there. But ultimately, even just sliding down into 2nd spot, like RNG made the miracle playoff run when they went to MSI, starting in the 1st round and then going all the way through to the LPL finals, taking the championship, then going to the international. But no team wants to make that run. If you're unfamiliar with how the LPL playoff gauntlet works, they try to make it so that every single series counts in the LPL, because head-to-head is one of the lower down determines of if you take the spot or not. It's more so about your raw wins versus losses.
Because they turn into points. A good example of that is that LGD is technically tied with Suning, but they have less points. So if it was to be determined today, Suning goes through.
Exactly. And again, the reason why we do this is that it used to be in the LPL that they hid what the playoff gauntlet was going to look like. Like when they revealed this King of the Hill style, they hid it from the teams because it was such a problem that our league is so big that teams just weren't taking the game seriously. Like people always make the joke about like the sandbagging meme. When you play as many games as we do in the LPL, sometimes you just stop giving a fuck. Like sometimes shit just flies that you're like, I guess it's week 6. Like it happens. It gets a little bit crazy. But because RNG are in the Eastern Conference, as long as it doesn't lose them 1st place, do whatever your little heart desires. Fly free. Obviously, you're still building synergy. It's not like what they're doing doesn't give them a strategy advantage or anything like that. Like they can definitely build on this and make themselves more of a threat. But ultimately, you're still looking at just a 7-man roster for international events due to Riot limitations. And if you don't take 1st, you're playing another best of 5 instead of being seeded directly into semifinals and being 2 best of 5s away from Worlds.
And for context for people out there, remember RNG's run, it wasn't easy, as you mentioned, going up against WE. They almost lost one of those games.
Snake, Invictus Gaming, and Edward Gaming. They went through every top team. The only team they may have missed was Rogue Warriors, but Rogue Warriors were on the down turn in that playoff run, whereas I think the teams that they ran into, maybe barring Team WE, were all the strongest teams. Like that was very heavily the strongest side of the bracket.
That was I would call it a deep miracle run for them, just because we all called IG, a good portion, I can't say all of us.
It
was a large portion. A lot of us believed IG was going to take the series. In fact, them losing out was the difference between Duke and the Shy. It
went to 5 games. Think about that. RNG win MSI. They 3-0 Fnatic. They 3-1 Kingzone. If they hadn't messed up that Galio team fight, you're possibly looking at a 3-0 over Kingzone in the final. And Invictus Gaming, without the Shy, with Duke, took RNG to 5 games.
Yes.
That should tell you exactly how good that team was.
Yeah.
Obviously, after they lost, utter and total collapse. But for that window...
So RNG knows this best. They don't want to lose the seeding off of it, though it looks like it's going to be a case because JD are doing quite well. Invictus Gaming are taking the regular season incredibly serious with their lineup, even bringing back the Shy for a good portion of these games coming into this week 6. And so that's one fear that almost they'll have to realize that going into playoffs. Another one is you're saying that diversity is a big kicker for this team now, bringing in the 8-man lineup. Do you think it's something that they are willing or should be willing to take into playoffs? Because while it looks like with Zatai coming into the mid lane, it's been working out a little bit, but teams are starting to attack that a little bit better. And I'm wondering, if you are RNG, you have Uzi back in playoffs, does it even seem reasonable to put in Zatai and Let Me when you have Uzi back in playoffs, right? Because ultimately, yeah, sure, you can play whatever you want if you're RNG. But if you have the best player, the best AD carry in the world back in your lineup, it only seems like they're playing games now in the regular season.
You don't have to dance around the language. You can say the best player in the world right now. It is Uzi.
All right, you can go for it.
It's different than saying greatest of all time, but best player currently in the world is Uzi. I think that personally, if I was RNG, pending on how they ramp into playoffs, so if they're on a downward trajectory and they're losing every fucking game heading into playoffs, you immediately pull that and you get Uzi in there, because they have a history that if you inject him into the roster, morale immediately improves, and for whatever reason, that mental blocker is gone from RNG and they start winning. If you're fine and you've stabilized, I don't think it's the strongest iteration of the roster to not have Uzi there. Obviously, you'd want the greatest player in the world, but you don't have to play him game one of a BO5. You know what I'm saying? Like, give Uzi as much time to rest, give him time to kind of read the situation, sit back, and only if you start to struggle game 2, game 3, maybe that's when you decide to front Uzi. But I don't think there's any need, if RNG are stabilized going into playoffs, that you start Uzi, you know, game 1.
Okay. For the rest of the week, to finish up on this topic.
Oh, wait. Unless they seed into semis. I think if RNG are making, again, another miracle run, let's say they slide down to second, maybe slide down to third, and they need to go through, like, you know, another best of 5, maybe they're in quarters, I don't think you start Uzi. If you're in the semifinals, I think you give enough respect to your opponent that could possibly go to 5 games, and you start Uzi.
Okay. Okay, I can see that happening. Give your son, I would say, give Zatai a little bit more time.
Yep.
Let me ask you a question about Abel.
Oh, boy.
Yep.
Oh, boy.
So, if a team wants to learn or at least play around the protection comp a little bit more going into playoffs because they know that Uzi's coming back in, would you play Abel more often throughout this play? Abel or Zatai going forward?
The mentality here is that you can just plug and play Uzi and Abel, or you can plug and play Marksman and the style doesn't change. And I think that fundamentally, like, I understand that ideology, but fundamentally I disagree with it, because Uzi and Abel are just completely different players.
Yes.
Like, you can train certain champions that, you know, maybe you're training how you would fight in a team fight in terms of, like, your tank lineup, but not how you're going to be interacting with that ADC, because the things that Uzi can do, no other ADC in the world can do. So I don't think it's as black and white as they should be training, you know, marksman compositions and run their marksman. I think it's more so, if they want to have a specific composition, their tank line needs to be training those champions, and it really doesn't matter if it's Abel or Zatai or Uzi who is playing in that marksman role, as long as their starting top laner, their jungler, are playing the appropriate champions that they would execute in that composition anyway, or would execute in the responsibilities that they would need to in terms of, like, peeling, engaging, and kind of where their power spikes are. That's really looking at it from, like, a compositional point of view.
Yep.
I think that right now RNG's biggest problem is also, like, synergy and communication, specifically around their mid jungle. I think Xiaohu and MLXG have just been massively underperforming.
Oh, that's interesting. Because the way I would have taken it,
that Xin Zhao game.
Yeah, I mean, that was a little bit bad.
That Cho'Gath bottom game.
That was a little bit bad. Hey, that wasn't him. That was a Let Me, though.
Yeah, but the thing is MLXG did nothing. He got a Cho'Gath and a Rakan. You know what that lane does, Raz? It kills things. You know what you should be doing? Ganking it.
Yeah, that's true. Here's my thing on this one, because I think a lesson they learned while they brought in Zatai a little bit more is that having the Darius mid lane is not it's not a quick fix. They actually had to move him out and put Xiaohu back into the mid lane, which I feel like was necessary if they wanted to form the 2v2 synergy between him and MLXG.
But the problem is that Xiaohu's still playing real bad. It's a bit shit.
Wait a minute.
His Zoe is fine.
Yeah.
But that's the only champion he can play right now. His Vladimir, in the same moment, will swing from God tier to bottom feeder in, like, 2 seconds. I don't understand what's happening to Xiaohu. And, like, again, my frustration comes from is that we know what Xiaohu's skill ceiling is. We have seen it on an international stage under high pressure situations. Yes. Where the hell has this guy been? That's, like, the one piece missing from RNG being, you know, like, this brilliant team. I'm still not willing to bet it all on RNG, because while Uzi is playing in the top of his form, MLXG is still a massive pendulum that swings from one side to the other, and Xiaohu is just not playing well. This is probably the worst he's ever played in his career.
And so ultimately we're waiting for that one player to step up without Uzi. And I felt like last year, when this was the exact same case, Xiaohu was that player during the regular season. In fact, he was ultimately playing on towards his Syndra, utilizing MLXG's pressure, and then just ganking repeatedly topside. Yep. And so it felt like not only was he outperforming in his lane, but then moving outwards. This time around, he's been a lot more silent, and although his team fights are a little, he has proper team fights, before he gets to that point, it feels like it's all over the place. and then you can't really see anybody really step up. So in that case, that has been, you would say that would be the current problem with RNG, while I still think that Xiaohu has really made a name for himself in terms of being a clutch player when it comes to playoff time, internationals. That's not really an issue unless
I think that's fair. Like, I definitely think he also returned to form. I mean, the start of MSI was rough, but in Game 5, I think Xiaohu did his job. He showed up.
So that's the problem right now of RNG. I don't want to press the big red button because it seems like that was just their 1-0-2 week, and they're a team that bounces back from that. But speaking of red buttons, Frosk.
Oh boy.
I'm going to go on the opposite end. Will you press the red button and put in the faith in teams like LGD and BLG?
Absolutely not. I have fallen into this trap before, Raz. That's how I ended up in a wig and I got a pencil stuck in my hair. I will never, until LGD win Worlds, that team is dead to me. I will never jump back on it.
But what's wrong with LGD?
Oh, so much.
What's wrong with LGD?
You want me to start naming names?
Okay. Because let me tell you my point. Because let's start out with the NBA. The Philadelphia 76ers, for anybody that knows this team. They're known as a team.
I love sport ball.
Yep. They're known as a team, and they tell their fans quite repeatedly, trust the process.
Oh, God.
They tell them trust the process because not a lot of faces are changing on the team, but they say, don't worry about it. Behind the scenes, things are changing. And even though we're having tough losses here.
How long were they in the process?
Not as long as LGD. Not as long as LGD.
How many years, Raz, have LGD been in the process?
I mean,
when was the last time LGD made playoffs?
And here's my take on this.
And at what point do we draw the line of like where because do you say that to Vici as well? Do you look at Vici Gaming and you're like, trust the process?
Hell no. Because the process comes from the system. And so the system, and this is why I would look towards LGD and say that this is actually something that can change. It's not just in the fact that they had their 2-0 week. They do that from time to time. Last split, it was literally them taking wins off of RNG at the end of the week. What are we saying about that? But
I'm going in.
Okay. But let me take this. Let me give it the caveat of the fact that they got UDJ now as a coach.
Yes.
They have an AD carry. I know a lot of criticisms were levied towards the motivation of Imp. Now they have Y4, someone who needs to prove himself as this is the first time he's taking a starting lineup and is expected to start from day 1 to day 100.
So I think the problem with this context, so again, it's a nuanced discussion. So we'll get to kind of the point that you brought up because I think it is the best point for trusting an LGD right now and having a turnaround for them. But the thing is most people's timeline and context of LGD starts at 2015.
Yes.
Now, reminder, LGD are one of the oldest teams in the LPL. There are 2 years before 2015 that you can look at LGD and guess what? They were shit years.
They were bad.
They've been a shit team for a long time, and then they had one really good year. And the thing is that they injected, like the rest of the LPL, all of this superstar talent where the language barriers hadn't been figured out, where the work systems weren't in place, and they, took it to Edward Gaming, and then when it mattered in the clutch, fell down, didn't go as the MSI representative, and then when it mattered in the clutch again at Worlds, completely embarrassed the LPL and themselves. So ultimately, if that is the high point for LGD in the timeline from the very beginning of them being in the LPL, that is nothing. That's not even an accolade. They didn't do anything. They performed domestically, shoulda, coulda, woulda, and then they just disappeared forever. But they were shit before they performed. They injected talent into their roster and then, muscled their way to the top. And then they were shit after for a very long time. And not just like good shit. I'm talking about like hot shit.
Oh, damn.
Like it's steaming on the sidewalk and you don't want to pick it up. In the most recent context, I love what they've done. I think bringing in Y4 is excellent. I think he's been performing really beautifully. Unfortunately, it hasn't really transitioned to what the team needed earlier, but now it's starting to. I think Jinnu is the right franchise player to play around because he's a very talented top laner. I like Yuki. I think he's got a lot of potential, but it's so hard to shine in this league that's stacked with talent. Obviously, they have faith in PYL. I don't know if I'm willing to give him the same faith. I was a big PYL fan. Now I'm just kind of running out of steam on it because there's just so many mistakes that are happening from his position specifically. I like the fact that they're changing up coaching staff. I think that's absolutely the right decision making, because if you have as many players going through your revolving door as LGD have had over the course of their entire LPL history, this is not a player problem. This is a management problem. Like, you need to have stable management, and that management needs to have power because they need to start putting together a roster. So I think right now, yes, you could have faith in LGD. But if you have faith in LGD simply because of what happened in 2015 and, yes, the glory days, you are blind. You do not know LGD. Get rid of that faith. Have faith because of the decisions they've made in the last, 6 weeks.
Exactly.
Not for what happened in the past.
And these are a lot of the criticisms we had are now being resolved in these 6 weeks, because we were talking about, yes, they need new players, new blood in that, because when we were talking about the highs that they had in 2015, being able to take down Shagu in the finals, that was beautiful. The domestic success, being able to match EDG, that was the roster having a lot of synergy. That was the roster being smart enough to understand their opponents and having the motivation to be able to hit them. Whenever we talk about LGD, the major criticism is motivation, is management and challenging some of these players. And so while going into this year, a lot of the criticism was like, where's Cool at? He's gone. What the hell happened with Imp when summer hit? He's gone too. And so they threw away, debatably, and you'll probably say no to Imp, but known as their star talent.
Oh, no, absolutely. They've thrown so much star talent away, and they've held on to talent that wasn't worth holding on to. If you think all the way back to who's the top, Star was their top laner, and then they had TBQ for the longest time. I'm trying to even remember their original mid laner, but there was a portion where LGD had these, the same roster, and were just running into a brick wall repeatedly, and then systematically started changing out the pieces around PYL, didn't really get where they needed to, and it wasn't until the roster got blown up that they brought in Acorn and Imp that any sort of progress was made where they suddenly jumped ahead. And unfortunately, I credit a lot of that success to Acorn, to Imp. Imp was performing well, and PYL was performing better than he is. But Acorn was, for me, the real genius of LGD. His side wave management, his ability to team fight. I thought that he was truly the linchpin, if you will, of LGD's success in 2015.
Yeah, in a region of, honestly, weak top laners, it feels like that really injected some real strength there, competition.
And the inability to play the map as well as LGD did, because of how Acorn was set up side waves, look for TPs. Just go back and watch those VODs. No one had better map control than LGD at that point in the game. Or, at that point in the world, even if you compare them to LCK teams, which they were scrimming, so. Not Worlds. Don't look at those
Don't
VODs.
do it.
They were garbage.
There are some good VODs domestically that you can look to LGD and maybe make some reference points. And so that's why it feels like with the last 6 weeks, even though you naturally want to stop yourself as IG fans, and in this case LGD, and say no, they need to show results first before that really comes through. These are the results that are coming through, and I'm not talking necessarily about the wins that you do see, the W's, but also just even in their losses, they feel like close losses.
Progress.
It feels like there's real progress on this team, and that they're understanding vision control since they got UDJ as their coach. And while we look towards last year and say that I don't know if there's motivation being pushed into these players, there's definite motivation from Y4, from Yuki. And then you can say towards Amy as well, because Amy as a jungler has been down in the dumps for quite some time, and it feels like now he's forming some real synergy with his lane. So, and I ain't going to be saying that LGD can make playoffs, but they're technically tied for it until you put in the points. So LGD, this is the best they've looked in a long ass time.
You want to make a bet, Raz?
Okay, let's go for it.
Okay. Do you believe that LGD will make playoffs?
You know what?
You just watched that Suning WE game.
Yeah, I did.
I mean, how hard can it be?
You know what? I'm going to say LGD make playoffs.
Okay. And if they don't make playoffs, the wig is coming back.
Hey, I'm going to be wearing that wig?
Okay, I'll wear the... So if Suning make playoffs over LGD,
yeah,
you will wear the wig.
Okay.
And if LGD make playoffs, I will wear the wig.
I thought I said that LGD make playoffs.
That's what I'm saying. If LGD do make playoffs, I'm wrong, so I wear the wig.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
Okay, the bet, to make this simple,
Okay.
If LGD make playoffs, Raz is safe. I wear the wig. If
Wonderful.
LGD don't make playoffs, you're wearing the wig. And it's going to be blonde and it's going to be frilly.
I'm going to be down for that. Obviously, the producers are going to be sweating bullets about which kind of wig you'd be picking out. But if I'm going to be a black man sitting on that desk wearing a blonde wig, I don't think anybody loses.
Beautiful locks. Just the most flowing.
Yep.
And I'll only make you wear it for the opening A block.
That, you know what? Handshake. It's happening. You guys don't see it, but it's been done. And that's why I feel like, even though I'm always the guy trying to take the least amount of steps, but I have a lot of faith in where this team's going. They have the talent. The talent is not a question. So there we have it.
Do they have the consistency, Raz?
The consistency is what I'm betting on. And so speaking of bets and speaking of just the level of consistency, BLG is in that same role, aren't they?
Oh, boy.
Last week, now I'm going to quote roughly. Indiana Frost and Black last split. As they're going into playoffs, BLG is the team to beat.
Yes, they were so good.
BLG should make finals, she says.
Yep.
What happened to that BLG?
Rogue Warriors. So the mentality is that BLG came in swinging hot and heavy, not just into the playoffs and their initial playoff run against JD Gaming, but leading up into playoffs. And the last time that we saw Rogue Warriors, it was chained losses together. They didn't have a read on the meta. They kept playing the same boring shit over and over. Yep. They looked like they had gotten figured out, and then it was a break period that we wouldn't see Rogue Warriors until deeper into the playoff run because the nature of the playoff bracket. So you see BLG, they're swinging hard. They take down JD Gaming very handedly, and then the only footage that you have is Rogue Warriors and Edward Gaming on that side of the bracket, and both those teams looking very weak. And so while I stand by my statement that BLG were the better team, they were not the better team on the day, because, again, watching that series, BLG, they played the strangest. Some of those drafts were just mind-boggling.
The drafts were a problem. The players themselves, specifically for Mole and Chieftain, really had a poor set. Some, honestly, misclicking of flashes as well. It felt like the team themselves were tilted. They got through it. It felt like they were getting better as the games went on.
And it still went to 5.
And it still went to 5 games. So that was the BLG then. And then, obviously, coming into this series, or this split, the meta destroyed them. The meta really bodied them. In a meta where it was like, you're not going to the 40-minute team fights. That's not what it decides. Before that is when the game ends. BLG is a team that don't have that. They don't have that star talent.
But they don't have it because they don't have the experience. I don't think it's a matter of they don't have it and they won't get it, because I actually really do like Chieftain and Mole. I think that there's a lot of talent there. It just has to be refined. And Road needs a muzzle. Get that guy under control.
Morgana is technically a muzzle.
Oh, no. He is not allowed to. He is never allowed to play Morgana. Road, if you think you're good at Morgana, you are not good at Morgana.
Oh, boy.
Play Shin. You are an amazing Shin player.
And so here's my gripe with this team. Because even with the problem of, not being able to play AD carries in the meta, or at least not having the priority of, so you have to be playing mages if you want the early game guaranteed to you.
Yep.
Jin Jazz not going to be playing that. He is known for playing those AD carries. Caitlyn is a big one.
It screws their bottom lane right now. And then Amazing J, so they have a losing bottom lane, and then they have Amazing J, who was never known for his strongest lane phase. So depending on matchup, they're going to lose top side.
He actually just statistically has one of the poorest lane phase because he sacrifices so much for the team fights.
Yep. And then you have a very inexperienced mid-jungle as your primary pivot point. So it's no wonder that BLG have been struggling, but you still see those spikes of, okay, this is the BLG. So it's kind of like, it feels like a marble game where the marble comes down through the puzzle piece, but occasionally it lands in the right composition. You're like, yes, this is a BLG composition. They're going to do what they do well, because, again, if they get to play their style, they're still one of the best teams in the LPL at doing it. But right now in the current meta, they just don't get to do it a lot. Yeah,
and they're getting cleaner and cleaner, because I feel like their early game solutions were Mole and Chieftain.
Yep.
And throughout the beginning of the split, Chieftain has been basically unlinking himself from Mole, and he's been going to the bottom lane fairly repeatedly, and it hasn't been the solution. In fact, going back to mid, you can really see Mole starting to get things together. Their victory over EDG was solely because of that mid lane jungle synergy, so it seems like BLG are a team that are on the run again.
I actually think if you look at the top teams in the LPL, and especially the teams that are performing right now, so both our elite teams and then the teams that are currently performing or current performers, it's all about mid-jungle synergy, which is interesting because our region has always been about our bottom lanes and how you play about the bottom lane. And it usually just start in the mid lane, but it's like a race towards bottom for multiple teams. But I just think that right now, due to the item shifts, due to champion pools, due to how the LPL likes to team fight.
And being able to support your bruiser jungler to be able to get across the map.
That when we see the current performers right now, it's because that they've figured out the jungle mid priority on champions or specific duos, and that their synergy is performing right now. Like RNG, they're slipping back. Who do I look at? I look at Xiaohu and MLXG, or Xiaohu and Karsa. And usually in the losses, yeah, there was some bad Baron setups. Yeah, some of the, let me going down 0-3. Like, it's a team effort when you lose, but a lot of what I'm paying attention to is what are they doing with any sort of advantage that happens in mid jungle. And if the answer is nothing, chances are that they're falling behind right now.
And so here's my problem with this team now, because it almost seems like you hit a nail onto why BLG has had so much inconsistency throughout the time in which they've existed, because they've been swapping out their junglers almost repeatedly, year after year, split after split. Let's just go through it, because it felt like, even if I say they had a Voidless at one point, you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's a long time ago. A Voidless, Ben 4, Flawless, SKS. You finally get to the new jungler Chieftain, and they, guess what, have Mianhua in the back. So now they're even setting up this new strategy. As a point, it seems like the jungler is the most pivotal, most important point of your early game, just so you can actually direct him to one place or another. He really bridges your early to mid game, so you can actually free your lanes so they can get to their team fight. And so Chieftain, although he started out very strong in the spring split, that honeymoon phase ran out real quick, and it seems like BLG had to make the run to get back into proper form. Do you think proper form is enough now, because they've really fallen down short in this split?
Unfortunately, no, because I think when you say proper form, you mean like skill ceiling. And so here's the mentality, and maybe I view the game very different, but if the teams in the LPL are playing at their absolute best on the day, let's say BLG is playing their best, Edward Gaming is playing their best, RNG are playing their best, BLG is never going to be a top team if everyone is playing their best. For the LPL, it's about, because of and not even just for the LPL, in my opinion, globally, like, this is why Korea have been so dominant. It's not because that they're the very best on their best day and their best form. It's because they will most consistently play the very best on the best day and their best form. You're going to get 90% out of an LCK team 9 times out of 10, where you're going to get 100% out of an LPL team maybe 4 times out of 10.
Yep.
And that's just the nature of competition. And I'm not saying that, trying to make excuses for the LPL over their history, because I do think that consistency is the most important thing when it comes to our league. Our domestic leagues are so long. You must be a consistent team. If maybe we had just one-off tournaments, then consistency wouldn't be so weighted in determining who is the greatest team and who is just a good team. And BLG, their problem is not necessarily, like, their problem is twofold. It is consistency, especially as you see this split, but it's also the fact that their skill ceiling isn't there to compete or to muscle around with the best teams. So, hopefully they hit their stride, they have their consistency, and they're throwing a solid 6 every time. But you just know that RNG, Edward Gaming, Rogue Warriors, and IG can throw that 10.
And so for me, as a finalizing question for this team, because I know we already had our bet earlier about LGD getting in or out of playoffs, and you know where I stand on that. Pretty high.
So
on
does
LGD.
the audience.
Exactly. So then who do you think will take that spot? Because Suning Gaming has been dropping sets recently, while BLG are on the up and up. I mean, in the last few sets, just excluding EDG, because that was an incredible win, they had a 1-2 loss to Rogue Warriors. Same for Snake, same for TOP. Those are all very close matches versus teams that are up there, above 500 right now, if you're looking at the standings. Do you think BLG will do enough to take down Suning? Or LGD? I'm just asking right now. I guess the real question is, who do you think even takes that 4th place spot?
I think it's Suning Gaming, because, again, consistency. But I also think that Suning actually have the talent to break that skill ceiling over both LGD and BLG. I think Angel has a lot of promise in him. I like what I'm seeing from Hacker. I think he's definitely been improved. But more importantly, Xiao is just so good. And Fury and Yoon are also very good. I think Suning's side lanes are much stronger than both BLG and LGD side lanes. And now it's a matter of which one of those 3 teams is going to, A, be consistent enough, and B, build up the synergy quick enough, because you have a very young roster in Suning with a brand new mid laner. You have a very new roster in LGD, as well as underperformers, and then you have new talent on Chieftain and Mole. This is really a race to who grows up fastest.
Yeah, grows up fastest, and ultimately, I would say a little bit of the meta as well, because I would say if you were to frame LGD and Go on.
This is why I actually wait on Suning, because I do agree the meta discussion is a part of it, and I think Suning are the most meta resilient of those 3 teams, which is why I would place my bet on them, because no matter what happens leading up into playoffs and going into playoffs, I'm like, Suning probably have a better chance at being adaptable because they have multiple carry points, whereas I don't believe the same thing for LGD and BLG.
Yeah. Especially for BLG, they feel like they're a team that needs to get patched into team fights to be relevant. But one thing, a little bit about Suning, just because I know a lot of people throw weight behind Xiao Al because he is an excellent performer and deserves it. Fury and Yoon, a lot of people, I would say, recognize how strong they are, but not really know why they're strong. Because when Ashe came back into the meta, it was through Fury. And when Swain was a pick in the bottom side of the map, it was through Fury as well. Feels like he's an AD carry that is so damn flexible and has such strong coordination with Yoon. Where would you place Fury and Yoon amongst bottom laners in the LPL? As a duo? As a duo, because it almost seems
top 4.
There we go. Because it almost seems you need to talk about duos when you talk about Fury and Yoon. So top 4, it seems like, who would you place in the top 3 leading up to top 4?
Ming and Uzi, Mako and iBoy.
Would you put SMLZ in Killua? Because Killua seems like he's not been performing well throughout the split.
No, he hasn't, which means that Fury and Yoon might actually be 3. I'm trying to think of who the other impressive bot lanes have been. Let me see who else is there. Mystic, no. OMG, Chelly, no.
It's rough. It's a tough one.
BLG, Jinjiao and Road, no.
Yeah, I know, right?
JD Gaming, Loken and Mao have been really good. I think might actually be that 3rd spot.
Yeah.
But like Fury and Road, depending on that matchup, I actually think Fury's a better ADC than Loken. Loken's just having a really high point right now, and I think Mao is playing out of his mind. But Fury and Yoon on their day, you know what? I'll take it back. I actually think they're top 3. I think that they would slide in before SMLZ and Kahlua. SMLZ is definitely more talented than Fury.
Yes.
But Kahlua just does not have... And then the synergy together of those two, the creativity, the versatility and flexibility. The thing is we talk all the time about mechanics in the LPL. We have such strong, raw mechanics. Fury is actually just smart. He is a very smart ADC, and he's got the mechanics to back it up. And then the creativity with Yoon and their bloodthirst, the amount of 2v2 kills that they've had on the best bottom lanes in the LPL, like you cannot overlook or give Fury and Yoon a kill-oriented bot lane. They will kill you. They are good enough.
Yeah, and I think 2 champions for me, and you could agree with that. Rakan's really good, actually. I want to pick Rakan, but I would say Ashe and Tahm Kench.
Yeah.
Just because if I'm looking at Ashe players throughout the LPL, a lot of them, the way they use their arrows are cross-map. The Sean P arrows, if you will.
Specialty.
Yeah. And if you're Fury and Yoon, they try and carve out the play, so it might not be as long range, but it's almost guaranteed because they are much smarter players when it comes down to it and how they form out like that bottom lane. So it's nice to see. I mean, 3rd place, Fury and Yoon. Lock it in. Hopefully Killua shapes up. I'm just putting that.
He's doing a bit of a power int right now. It's not great.
His Rift Rivals is not good, man.
It's rough. But you see him come back sometimes during the game where he like grabs Alistar. You're like, yeah, there's Kahlua. Look at him make that play. And then he like suicides, and you're like, I have no idea what's happening.
And just, fans will be throwing these names out, so I'm going to put them out there. Jackie Love and Balan.
No.
There we go. LWX and Crisp.
No.
There we go. I already got them all out there. Snake doesn't have a bottom lane.
No.
And so that's all you have right there for you.
I was actually big on the Hude Maestro bot lane.
Oh, no.
That would have started to make the climb.
Wogo at this point has known the bottom lane a little bit more than the mid lane.
But Wogo, I feel like he's such an interesting player because I feel like he's like one of those toddlers that you would put on a leash. And do not get me wrong. I think a lot of shame goes to parents who put their children on leashes.
Yep.
I don't think that really deserves shame. If I'm a parent and I'm fucking tired and I'm trying to take care of this child who is trying to kill themselves by running into traffic constantly and I just need a latte, like put the kid on a leash. I'd rather be embarrassed and have that type of photo than my kid be dead. I'm all for children on leash versus like children roadkill.
Yep.
And I think Wogo deserves to be on a leash.
Yeah, perhaps.
As soon as he steps away from his team, insta-dead.
It will happen.
So they lose track of where he is. I feel like he just goes silent. I almost guarantee that he goes silent in columns, and the next thing they know is, where's an ally has been slain. God damn it!
Like, I'm the type of guy that if I ever have a child, the discussion will definitely be happening about putting a child on a leash. Maybe even my wife will be like, put this child on a leash. But I'm like, I just don't like the look of it. I don't want people looking at me.
I know, I understand, but if it makes you feel better, just put the kid in like a dog costume, tie the leash to your hip. People at a glance, they're not even gonna think twice, especially if it's like a small child.
Oh boy. All right. And okay. I know we had these bid talks, but let's look ahead for a few of these teams.
Oh boy.
So I know I'm going to lead up to the match of the week. That's going to happen in the first one. I put down LGD versus Rogue Warriors. I almost feel like I need to. I understand that Rogue Warriors as a team are on a high. But you've just said to me throughout this podcast that it's undeserved. They beat RNG when they shouldn't have. They got slapped around like FlyQuest versus 100 Thieves, but still got the win anyways.
Yep.
LGD versus Rogue Warriors. How confident are you that it's going to be a 2-0?
It's a big confidence. I'm going to give that a big thumbs up. Because the thing is I have faith in Rogue Warriors because they have a history of showcasing that when they get knocked down, when they struggle, which they did in that series against RNG, it was miracle Baron saves that allowed them to do that they correct it, which is I bet against in the past. I bet against Rogue Warriors in playoffs of spring because they hadn't shown the ability that if they start to tilt, when they hit a rough patch, that they would be able to climb up. They proved me wrong. They climbed out of playoffs. They managed to take third place in the LPL. And so now I have to have faith that, okay, you had a rough set against RNG, but you did it in the clutch. You never gave up. You won the series. And so you're looking at LGD and you're probably going to take it a bit more seriously because the belt, I would imagine, would come off.
All right. I'm hearing that. I'm saying this game goes to 3 games.
Oh, boy.
And while I'm saying Rogue Warriors...
How did LGD take a game? You're really banking on those playoffs.
Look, I am. I'm saying while Rogue Warriors are the best team fighting team right now in the LPL.
Yeah.
Mouse always somehow finds himself in the back. I don't know how he does it.
How did LGD win? How do they take a game?
LGD right now are a team that's actually fairly smart in terms of punishing early game.
Yeah,
their early game is
solid.
Is getting better.
Yeah.
And Rogue Warriors are a team that even still to this point, they formed January, early this year, and their vision control in the early game is still so bad. And Killua...
The word you're looking for is poopy.
It's poopy.
It's poopy.
It's very poopy. It's incredibly poopy. And this team right now in the early game will get punished. And while they will find themselves in that opportunity going up against RNG, where they can make these incredible Baron steals, LGD are not a team that will go to a 50-50. LGD a team, and even if you tell...
They're going to go to an ARAM.
If they tell Jinnu to back up, he's still 10 foot deep in them. And I'm telling you right now, LGD is a team that will try their hardest to at least take one game. I think they will be able to do that.
I think it'll be a bloody series, but
I
don't think they get one. I think there's some questionable calls where, again, you clinch a bit if you're a Rogue Warriors fan because a team fight goes a little bit sideways because Doinby and Flawless got a bit too hyphy. But I think it'll be okay.
All I'm saying is it does come down to the team fight. If somehow SMLZ is on Lucian again and if he's just being able to rip them to shreds.
LGD, all they do is ARAM. Of course it's going to come down to a team fight. You said it yourselves, Rogue Warriors, best team fighting team.
One game.
Oh.
Next series. And I'm going to skip the schedule, even though theoretically the next one is going to be match of the week on this Saturday with IG, EDG. I'm going to get your opinion on that one last because that one's necessary. TOP RNG.
Why do you keep picking these series? I understand why you're doing it. So he's doing it because TOP are on the rise right now. And if you don't know this team, because no one knows this team.
No one knows.
This used to be Marn's team. Except guess what? He hasn't been playing and they're still winning.
I was getting comfortable with lies. I was getting a little bit comfortable like his Darius is doing well, his team fights are getting better, and now Moyu is playing.
I mean, the reality is it really doesn't matter who they start because that team is not winning because of their star caliber of talent, which is why their winning streak will come to an end. That team is winning because they have cleaner fundamentals right now, and the rest of the teams are playing down. TOP are playing up, just clean, basic, very simple League of Legends. It looks nice. I'm happy to see it. I like the development, but ultimately... Again, if BLG can only throw a 6, I think TOP at best you're getting like a 5.5.
And you know what little nugget I threw into this one?
I'm ready.
So guess who was performing well from TOP side just recently?
Is this like a stat question?
I'm just saying in terms of power plays, and you're going to love it.
Okay, I'm ready.
Corn.
Oh, boy.
Guess which player was from RNG? Corn.
Fun fact, in 2014 World Championship between Samsung White and Starhorn Royal Club at I believe, 16 years old, Korn, the mid laner for Star Horn Royal Club.
And now he's going up against Shahu.
He's a second place world champion.
Narratively, people will be just combusting. I'm surprised you're not combusting. Just at that alone.
Fun fact about Korn, too, when he got relegated with the team, he refused to just buy his way back onto a new team, and he said that I will promote myself back into the LPL, and I will prove that I belong to be here. He's done so twice and been relegated twice.
Well, he's gotten real close. I mean, the best thing about Korn is that he's been with that team, found himself on the promotion matches, and there's always been that one guy that makes him sad.
He's a blue-collar mid laner. He's every man's mid laner. He's like, I'll come in, I'll work hard, I'm not going to be the star, but you see those big rocks? I don't know why I'm talking to this accent. I will make them into little rocks. That's what Korn's really good at. Big rocks into little rocks.
I'm doing the hard work. I'm putting in 24 hours a day.
But he only knows how to do it with a chisel. He can't use any other weapon. And I'll leave it up to your imagination about what his chisel is.
Oh my God. I will say right now, they should not allow him to have talent.
That may be the chisel.
Just if anyone's out there watching and you may be a part of the RNG organization, you may have done the legwork to find out. But if you hadn't,
let me help you out.
talent. The chisel. All right.
I imagine RNG sitting at their desks in like their big meeting room in Beijing, probably in like a palace. Everything's coated in gold. And they say, Korn, why does this sound familiar? Wow, what is he? Who?
I've passed around one of those faces on the entrance. A certain portrait. I know. IG versus EDG.
Woo!
Let's go. This is going to be fun.
This would have been such a hype match about, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. Now I'm just kind of over it. I mean, you got some interesting matchups here. The big one, of course, is going to be Rookie and Scout, and I think this is actually the defining matchup. Mid-jungle, we talked earlier about why it's important. Scout was playing on form. Rookie kind of working back up to his form, but I actually think this is Scout's opportunity to reclaim the throne of best mid laner in the LPL. I think he's actually really ready to take on. If he appears in Rift Rivals form and Rookie appears in Rift Rivals form, I'm already happy. Yeah. I'm already excited.
This is already really damn good. I feel like immediately EDG as a team getting to that point. If we just strike BLG out of the equation, because that series was a one-off, I will say that Scout has been having a phenomenal split. This split has been eye-opening for a lot of people from the globally audience. If you're looking at Rift Rivals, coming back into the split, Zoe's not happening anymore with him just because he's performing so well alongside Haro. Feel like jungle mid lane is the best way to show people, exemplify why they're doing so well right now this split. So now they're going up against Ning and Rookie. And those questions are coming pretty hot because Ning has not been performing well for us.
Which is why I actually weight this towards Edward Gaming. Again, if this is a question of who do I think will consistently show up on the day instead of like highest skill ceiling, I think Edward Gaming have a higher percentage of winning this match because of Haro versus Ning's performance. Yeah. Or consistent performance.
So across the board, it feels like you look to the bottom lane, iBoy and Mako, you expect to do quite well in the lane
Jackie
phase.
Love and Balan are about to get pushed in.
Yep. Everything's going to get pushed in. The Poo-Poo's going to get pushed in. The Tao's going to get pushed in. It's going to get pushed in.
And if I'm Mako, I'm immediately locking in Shin because Jackie Love has no idea how to play against that champion. The amount of times that Shin has like solo killed him or put him off his flash in the first 3 minutes of the game is unacceptably high.
That's the thing. This is not a Jackie Love man. I'm going to give him some defense. Jackie Love came in, he was ballsy.
But the thing is he's a Draven player, so that makes sense. I love looking at like the champions because think of how many games you have to play on Draven to be a Draven main.
Yes.
So that's how he learned. Like, let's pretend.
The tunnel
this
comes
is all
in real
subjective.
quick.
My mentality is if that's how he learned how to play League of Legends, then it makes so much sense why he positions the way that he does. Draven players run forward. Draven players know how to be aggressive. They smell blood in the water. They're sharks. They'll go for it. Jackie Love will do that on any champion,
Any champion. In fact, during the spring split, when they were having their record performance as a team, Jackie Love was still finding himself in that position. The only difference is that there were people there to save him. And so I ain't saying Jackie Love's bad. I'm saying he's great, but his attitude is all in. Chips in.
He just needs a bit of experience.
Yeah, and Shen's going to be that experience. So back to the point. Bottom lane, EDG.
Yep.
Mid lane, EDG.
Yep.
Jungle, EDG.
Yep.
This is where the IG fans come out. The Shy versus Ray.
If he plays.
If he plays, but there's almost no reason for him not to play.
But even then, the Shy we haven't seen the Shy return to form yet. His Aatrox game was okay.
But it's Aatrox.
Yeah, but Ray has also been performing above and beyond expectations. So even though, again, best versus best, you'd weight that towards Invictus Gaming. But
you think this goes 3
EDG
games?
are better team fighters. I think they're stronger laners. I think their drafting has been better. I think this is... If it goes to 3 games, it's because Edward Gaming flop a draft, and then Rookie or the Shy just get massively fed, and they snowball off, and it's like a very quick, like, 27-minute game.
You know, during their RNG series, they flopped a draft.
Yeah, I know. It was painful to watch.
All right.
I got my hopes up, and I was like, yeah! Oh!
Ah,
Otherwise, I think this should be an Edward Gaming 2-0.
Okay, perfect. There we have it. And look, we went through all of our matches, match of the week, and the 2 others that you immediately stricken off. This is going to be a pretty...
Match of the week is Saturday.
Woo!
Please come and watch it. It'll be good League of Legends. I should have hyped it up more. I mean, it's going to be amazing. Woo!
Look, it's going to be... If you're looking throughout all the sets of this week, IG versus EDG is always going to be the one to watch in terms of if you're a professional player and you want to see players play at the highest level. Mid lane jungle. Right now, it feels like both of them are coming in. Rookie, Scout. And I mean, the Shy is always a gem to watch. And if you get duked, then you're going to get some proper team fights because that's what you're hoping on. That's what you're banking on if you're IG. So that's one for everyone to watch. And Frostgearin, please, what you got to say for the people out there?
Is this a closing statement?
It's very close to it.
I love LGD. I know that I went pretty hard on them, but it's only because I had to wear a wig that one time. I put all of my faith in them. So LGD,
it's a motherly love.
If you're listening to this, it's just because I love you, and I love real hard. So, yeah.
Look, you got to be hard on your kids. I know it. I was... My parents had to be hard on me. So let me tell you, as we now close off this show, about Mr. Razzle the Plasm. Because I didn't become Mr. Razzle the Plasm by having soft parents. You have to have hard parents on you. The belt comes off sometimes.
Is that why the little plasm was cut off? Because of the parents?
They were like, it's too complicated. It makes no
Raz?
sense. You just have to have it Raz.
Yeah.
And so it may seem tough, but sometimes that's the only way you can deliver that love and be honest. So anyways, thank you everybody for watching. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.